Once again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the final day of Transform Africa. We have an exciting lineup for you today. As you can see, we've filled the stage with 7 experts to speak about our theme of the day for this room, which is smart business. So over the course of the last few days, we've had much discussion about the impact of ICT in various sectors. We've talked about ICT in healthcare. We've spoken about ICT for agriculture, ICT for e-government, I think is the discussion downstairs at the moment. And this session here is all about enterprise, ICT for enterprise. First question of the day, how many people in the room have actually read the SMART Manifesto? Show of hands if you've read the SMART Manifesto that was mentioned earlier. Okay, we've got a couple of people on this side of the room who've done their homework. Don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz. But if you look into the SMART Manifesto, you'll see that the SMART Manifesto has a few key principles. It's about putting ICT at the center of national development agendas. It's about making ICT access, especially broadband, more affordable. It's about employing ICT not only in private sector, but also in public sector, hence the discussion about e-government and the like. But if you look at the manifesto, principally, we see Rajiv Nair here duck out the side entrance before we do our final applause at the end of the panel. Please understand he's not been offended by any of your questions. He just really needs to get to India by tomorrow morning. So with that, let's kick off the panel with a brief introduction by each of our representatives here who come, as you'll see, and as you can see in the program, from a nice, diverse array of perspectives from across the continent and also across different sectors. So I'll turn it over to them to please introduce who they are, the organization they represent, and perhaps just a word or two about the perspective that they bring to this very broad topic of ICT and enterprise. So starting closest to me, I'll turn it over to you, Rajiv.
Thank you, Gordon. My name is Rajiv Nair. I head corporate finance for UST Global. UST Global is an IT services company based in California. We have 12,000 people in different parts of the world. We have offices in various parts of US, India, Philippines, Europe, and Mexico. Now, we plan to start our operations in Rwanda very soon. We have a close relationship with President Kagame and Agahazo Shalom Youth Village. I'm sure you're familiar to the youth village here. And we have partnered with the government of Rwanda and Agahazo village to start our BPO operations and IT operations in Kigali. We plan to use this as our base for entire East Africa region as well as our operations in Africa. So I'm here to meet with the government. This is my second visit to Kigali. I'm very much happy and I'm excited at the prospect that we're going to start our operations here. And seeing the potential of the region as well as the warmth of the people, we are happy to contribute to the growth of this country and the human development. And also we all love the leadership and vision President Kagame is providing. And in our model, the support from the government and the leadership is extremely, extremely important. So during the panel, I would touch upon what we did in Mexico and India, and we see a similar kind of a potential for this country, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much. Welcome, Rajiv.
Thank you.
Okay, next to Rajiv, we have Patrick from MobiCash.
My name is Patrick Ngabonziza. I am the founder of MobiCash. MobiCash was born out of a bouncing idea to service the 3 billion people in the world that doesn't have access to financial services. For me, it was a great opportunity to look at the bottom of the pyramid and be able, by combining fast advancing data networks and banking system into a platform that could provide easy access and be all financial inclusive and try to bring the bottom of the pyramid into the mainstream economy. Few challenges obvious. How do you bank illiterate people? So that requires some kind of financial literacy. How do you ask an illiterate to remember his PIN number? We come up using biometrics. So we can use the fingerprint, finger template as a unique identifier for each individual. And finally, after 5 years of trying and testing, we managed to grow substantially across the entire continent, where currently we have 5 operations in Burundi, Rwanda, Botswana, Uganda, which is the most advanced, and very soon Kenya. And we have as well got about 18 Pan-African licenses. We are licensed by central banks. You can imagine how difficult it is to talk to central banks, to educate them, the due diligence process we had to go through, but we managed to do that. So as a conclusion, I would like to say that at Mobicash, we consider that the banking system, the way we know it today, is the most anti-democratic, anti-social, and the most exclusive system, and the most dividing. So we are fighting and try to rebuild the foundations of the banking system to make it all inclusive to all citizens, regardless of their financial status. We won't stop there. A lot of challenges are still ahead, especially we have to deal with some kind of regulatory framework, environment, which is not easy. But that's how we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick, and welcome. I'm sure financial services will be one of the themes we dive into in the panel discussion. Okay, next, Patrick, we have Kamal.
Morning, everyone. My name is Kamal Kumar Bhagi, and I come from India, representing an organization by name SLK Software, which has been in the software business for last 15, 16 years and primarily focused in the US and Europe. I have gone through as an individual through the life cycle in India for the software. I carry around 28 odd years of experience, and what I bring on table today is that part of the story experience as to how and what it was and where it went and how, along with the information to all of you that we have set up an SLK Africa in Kigali, Rwanda, and the objective is to make it the hub for providing services in the African region. And the initiative is for a long term here. One of the key things we have been doing back to meet that is that we have been involving some of the Rwandan students back in India who come there for engineering, and they are being groomed for participating in work which we will do back here in Kigali. So that's what I would like to say as introduction of mine and the organization I represent. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Kamal. Robert.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Ngeru. I work for Samsung Electronics, and actually, that's not correct. I enjoy driving technology in emerging markets, so that's what I do best, and Samsung happens to be the channel that we do it. So with that, we have different principles around what we want to do in emerging markets, because we've seen Africa as the largest opportunity to drive technologies out from the modern and make Africa actually a kingpin. So with that, we drive information and entertainment, what we call infotainment. And my colleagues yesterday talked about the smart health and smart education. Then the second one is around bringing digital technology into different continents like Africa. One of them is we've done a smart school solution 2 of them in Rwanda, where we have a totally solar-powered internet school, and we have a smart school solution that we are driving. That's an initiative done privately by Samsung, and we've actually donated it to the government of Rwanda, and we've done that in Ethiopia, Uganda, and Rwanda, and Tanzania. So that's part of digitalization and driving different technologies around how to create different needs in business in Africa. Then the last one is around smart solutions and smart education. We are creating a bigger team of resources that we use. Every year we ship much more products into Africa than we do the previous year. So who will service these products? We have a mission which I'm in charge with, training 10,000 engineers across Africa, and for free. We will not charge them any penny. And we provide that technical skills to the workforce so that it can be able to service and give solutions to the local partners and the local consumers in country. So being said that, those are the 3 key pillars that I drive. And on top of that, we're driving lots of solutions around mobility, smart technology, so that we can create more innovative and lasting products as opposed to just getting boxes. We are working on creating packages that actually work to your relevant market. With that said in mind, we're proud to be here in Rwanda, and we enjoy this conference. We've showcased a lot of technologies, and if you've missed out any, please visit our booth at the exhibition. Thank you.
Yeah, Samsung certainly has an impressive booth over there in the exhibition hall. Lots of toys to play with. So beside Robert, we have Anne, who among other things is giving our panel just a smidgen of balance, a smidgen of gender balance. So Anne, you'll also bring an interesting perspective on social entrepreneurship. Would you please introduce yourself and the firm you represent?
Thank you. I think I'm trying to represent the women of Africa, but as far as I remember, we were about 52%. And so
this is a mental note for Transform Africa 2015.
So we have to make a plan next time, ladies, to just have more of us up here so we can really tell them who are the engines who drive economic growth in Africa, really. So my name is Anne Githuku Shongwe. I'm Kenyan by birth. I'm South African by love. And I am a social innovator. I am a social entrepreneur. And what I do is I work with what we believe are social challenges in the African continent and how you can flip those into opportunities for economic growth. And one of the ways we're doing this is through mobile learning. And you heard people talk about massively open online courses. Well, we're exploring and working and testing how to create our own massively made in Africa learning on mobile that will enable those 90% of young Africans who are unlikely at the pace at which our universities are moving in our colleges and postgraduate institutions to actually create the future of learning on mobile. And so when people like Samsung talk about driving change and pushing devices and all that kind of stuff, they need us to make sure that we can transform learning in this continent. So we create the content that we think can transform the way young people will learn, will think, will be able to engage. So we're looking at social learning, how people operate on Facebook. And so we spend a lot of time doing inclusive design. We work with young people to think about how they learn. What is it that they're excited about? What would motivate them to actually learn? So we get inside the heads and minds of young people and we design around that. And so we use games and gamification as a basic methodology for building our learning products. And we're finding that more and more that young people are actually motivated to participate in things that are mundane and boring otherwise because of the engagement framework that we use, a gamification framework. We have 540,000 users right now who are engaging with our products. And we are based in South Africa, we're based in Kenya, and our goal is to really create an Africa-wide platform for learning, and that's where we are. But we also see great opportunities for creating jobs. And so with digital penetration, as difficult as it has been, what we've been working on is creating social word-of-mouth marketing agents who are young people whom we equip with digital literacy and with the tools, and they go out and they basically push products out there. And they, so MobiCash could work with us. We'll make sure that your cash gets to young people through the social marketing word of mouth, right? So there's also opportunities for creating jobs, and we think that the social enterprise space can really, really drive economic growth, and there's great opportunities there. So that's what we do.
Great, thanks so much, Anne. This wasn't by design, but I think it's good. It's good that we've got you and Robert sitting next to each other, because we're going to play this symbiotic dependency out throughout the panel discussion. And one of the nice things is you've touched on a number of linkages between this theme of ICT for enterprise with many of the parallel themes in the conference, education and youth and many other themes. So I'm sure we'll come back to those. Okay, James Gatera.
Thank you so much, Gordon. I'm James Gatera, CEO of Bank of Kigali. That's a commercial bank based here in Rwanda. To do business, obviously, one of the essential elements is access to finance and efficient payment systems. Now, Bank of Kigali, what we have done is to see how we can tap into technology to make sure that we develop products that are efficient, products that are affordable, and products that can reach everyone. And in reaching everyone, you need distribution channels. And so we've come up with a number of distribution channels which are technologically driven. And we have made it possible here in Rwanda for people to access their bank accounts globally, wherever they are. And this we did in partnership with Visa, that gave us a license to be acquiring Visa and also issuing. And therefore what we do is we give Visa credit cards to all our customers, and this has helped big time our SMEs, because in the past what they used to do is when they are traveling, going to Dubai and elsewhere, they would be carrying cash, which was risky. And so when we did this partnership with Visa, and wherever you go in this town, you are going to find POSs, you are going to find Visa, another Bank of Kigali ATMs, where, thank you very much. You are going to find Bank of Kigali ATMs, you visitors visit our ATMs, and see what Bank of Kigali is able to do. And so we give credit cards, and with these credit cards we are able to extend the lines of credits to SMEs here in Rwanda. And when they trade, as long as they pay us within 2 months, we do not ask them for any interest. So if you are located elsewhere and you are having challenges of accessing credit, why not choose Rwanda to do your business? And what we are also doing is we found that in Africa in general, that people do not have even bank accounts. Over 80% of Africans don't own bank accounts. So what we have done in Bank of Kigali, we said this does not have to be so. And if to do business you need access to finance, then you surely need a bank account. So what we have done is also to introduce agency banking. By agency banking, you are able to go to every corner of the village and be able to open bank accounts for people, and this is driven by mobile banking. And when we started this, we started by approaching a local company and which developed a mobile banking platform for us. And then Visa, you see, when you are doing right things, people will notice. Then Visa, and thanks Gordon, they noticed what Bank of Kigali was trying to do to make sure that there is financial inclusion, and they came to Rwanda first. So they have what they call M-Visa. And this is also a mobile banking platform, which makes sure that everyone, whether you have a bank account or no bank account, you can be able to access finance. You can transfer money, you can receive money, and you don't have to be attached to any one bank. It is interoperable. And so they started this project with the Bank of Kigali, and the first project, in fact, all over the world, it has started here, the EMU visa, which I think which will be rolled out globally. It has done wonderful things to make sure that payment system is more efficient. We are now able to pay all pensioners through EMU visa. Wherever they are, we just send money in their phones. And so what this has done also is, again, in Africa, we still have a challenge of high transaction costs when you go to the banks. And so this is going to make sure that those who could not afford bank transaction costs because of their low income, they are able to access banking services through their phones. And so it has become affordable and easily accessible. Here in Rwanda again, people are able to pay their taxes using their phones, using their internet, and so it has cut costs for people who are traveling long distances to go to the banks to pay taxes. And in so doing, we have also created employment. Here with me, I have the head of our agency banking. What he has done is, this agency banking has created a number of employment for people. And this is also having huge impact because of technology. But also we are creating capacity in Rwanda, because these young men and women who are developing these softwares for us are having that capacity. We do not have to rely on external human resource or external to develop these software. So a number of things are happening because of this technology, and we'll continue to discuss further how this has touched the lives of Rwandans, and indeed Rwandans of a number of Africans in Kenya. You know, they came up with their Mswari, which has done a number of things to make sure that people are banked, to make sure that people are accessing loans through mobile phones. You just, in a few minutes, you instantly get approved loans to make sure that people are doing their day-to-day businesses. And this is where, as Bank of Kigali, we are heading. We have been having discussions, again, with Visa to develop the product further through EMU Visa, so that people, SMEs that need small loans can be able, they don't have to come to the bank. What they have to do is make an application through their phones and then get instant approval within 5 minutes. It is being done in Kenya through Mswari, and so it can be done elsewhere in Africa. So like we've discussed throughout this session, when it started, is I think for us Africans, we are where we are, I guess because I don't know why. We should be where other countries are, because we have everything now in place. We have skilled people. We have people now who have money, who can invest. We have technology. It has come to our doors. So the rest, I guess, as Africans, is up to us. And of course, our friends also are doing a lot to help in this regard, who are out from outside Africa. All we need is believe in ourselves and know that this is doable. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, James. I think job creation, SMEs, and this whole mobile money or mobile financial services revolution, which absolutely was born and bred and has gained global momentum here on this continent, those are certainly all going to be themes that we come back to in the discussion. So last but not least, Nick Williams from the ADB.
Yeah, hi, Nick Williams from the African Development Bank. You've heard from us earlier in the weeks, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with whom we are. We're, if you like, Africa's bank, because we're owned by the 54 countries of Africa. We have 20 non-regional members as well, and we look to support development on the continent, provide finance for development on the continent. I'm head of the ICT division of the bank, doing public ICT projects. I'm as much interested in this panel as many of you are. I'm sure I could quite easily be sitting down there rather than up here, because part of what we're trying to do is get our heads around how do we integrate ICT in everything we're doing to actually create growth in the economies. At the moment, there's been substantial investment in infrastructure, but infrastructure of itself doesn't drive the economy. And driving infrastructure, the benefits of infrastructure to SMEs is quite important to us, in that SMEs are the ones that really power growth in an economy in the way that large companies, although big employers and big revenue earners themselves, don't tend to do in quite the same way. SMEs tend to create diversity and innovation across an economy and localize revenues and profit. I'm not going to take up any more time because I'm actually quite keen on getting on with this panel and hearing from other people and then taking notes and claiming credit for their thought processes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. So please, warm welcome to all of our panelists here. And Nick, you're selling yourself a bit short because we got Nick on the panel because we get a 2-for-1 deal with Nick. He's very fresh into the ADB, but he does come from a long career in telecommunications. So every time we get Robert or other technology experts talking about mobile technology and the rest of it, we will be roping you in, no doubt, Nick, to contribute to that discussion. So just a reminder, and for those of you who joined after we kick-started the session, please, very interactive session at any time throughout the discussion. If anyone in the audience has a question or a comment, something to disagree with, something to challenge, something to support, please just raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. Just introduce yourself, your name, and the organization you represent, and we'll be happy to bring you into the discussion. So to get things started, Nick, I might come all the way I might come all the way over to you here because I think, at least as the African Development Bank, one thing you bring is a sort of a bigger picture. And the theme of our panel here is about ICT for enterprise. But what is enterprise anyway? Enterprise, in the largest sense, is a business of any size. You spoke just a minute ago about SMEs clearly being an important engine for growth on the continent. But we know that ICT will be applied through enterprises, big and small, ranging from large corporations down to the sort of micro-entrepreneurs that will be creating many of the exciting digital jobs of the future here on the continent. I wonder if you could just share a few thoughts with us to contextualize the big picture and to give us your thoughts on where you think we might see the biggest impacts from ICT when we think about the private sector and the business community.
I think if I'm thinking about this, I have to simplify things in my own mind and think about large businesses than SMEs. And I think what we're seeing with large businesses and how they're using ICT is more to streamline, to make more efficient what their internal tools to deliver what they're already delivering. So they already have scale, they already have customers, they already have products, they already have markets, they've got a presence everywhere. How do they then manage that? And the sheer size of some of these businesses creates complexity. Even if they're not multinational, they're just national, like national electricity distribution companies. It's that their scale means that they have internal management problems that ICT can support. We see this in government, for example, as well, where we're doing things like financial management systems, e-government systems. So it's the same for businesses, large business. I think when we turn to SMEs, the situation is different. I think ICT actually creates market opportunities for them. They have ideas for products, but ICT helps them reach markets, create the scale that they need at a smaller end. So it's more about delivery of a product or service because they haven't got a physical presence in the marketplace. Where we see ICT initially being of value. They don't have the scale to require large internal systems for internal management of the business. They do need ICT to actually create their business in the first place. They also need finance, which is why I've got a development bank and a bank here sitting next to me. That's also an issue. But if we think of the ICT picture, I think it's that fact that they can then create a market in the first instance that's quite exciting about this, because it allows for scale very quickly. We just have to understand, I think, how we enable the skills of the entrepreneurial skills rather than the technical skills that allow people to then embrace ICT and deliver on their vision. But that's how I would see it. Now, obviously, that it's a bit more complex than that. But as a simple introduction, that's how we're seeing it. And it's mightily important, as I said before, that we do actually drive this ICT adoption within the SMEs and get that whole sector of the market really pushing forward and diversifying away from the commodity base that we see in most of Africa. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick. I'd like to carry on with this theme about SMEs, because if I remember correctly, I recently read a statistic from the IFC that said that SMEs account for fully 90% of businesses in Africa. And yet, sometimes you hear this expression that SMEs are the missing middle. You've got the big corporates at the top end, and you've got some very energetic entrepreneurs at the bottom part of the economy. And sometimes the SME are the missing middle because of some of these barriers that you alluded to, Nick. It may be access to finance, it may be capacity. James, you spoke about SMEs in particular in your opening comments. I wonder if you could share your thoughts about the extent to which ICT, whether it's mobile broadband or other forms of information communications technologies, have the potential to really boost the business prospects for the small and medium-sized enterprise sector. Could this be transformational for SMEs in Rwanda and in other countries around the region?
Thanks, Gordon. Again, SMEs are very critical. They provide employment, they provide services, but the challenge has been access to finance. So, and again, when I talk about access to finance, it's not because finance is not there, but because when you bring a project, the banks want to see that the projects are bankable. So what ICT then can do, and what it has done, is to make sure that people are able to come up with proper business plans, because there are different softwares that can encourage or can show clearly the path of competition, where is the competition, where are the products. And most SMEs now can even go online to check where different products are and at what price, and how people are doing different things elsewhere. The knowledge, which is very critical to do business, also is now abundant. And therefore, what we have done in Rwanda is to make sure that we also we have information about our SMEs, individuals, and we have come up with a credit reference bureau, which is technologically driven to store data, good and bad, of different entrepreneurs. So what this does again is to show us people who are creditworthy, so that we can be able to extend credit to these individuals. And in Rwanda, we have also come up with a guarantee fund for SMEs, whereby individuals are encouraged to start up businesses. We call it in Kinyarwanda Hanga Umurimo. And this is a fund given by the government. And therefore, they are also given management skills. They are given skills on how to strategize their businesses. And as I said, in the Bank of Kigali, what we have done with M-Visa also is try to make sure that we reach everyone. In the past, it was not possible. So that if everyone is banked, if everyone knows how to use banks, then it will also be possible to get their data, good and bad. So this was, in the absence of this, it would be very difficult to reach remote men and women in the villages to tell them to bank if they don't even have access to banking services. So technology has helped a great deal in terms of giving information, in terms of developing capacity, in terms of storing information, and to make sure that people don't have to travel long distances looking for a bank. It saves time. It saves them money if they have a bank next to them. And if they can get information while they are seated in their home, if they can do banking while they are in their homes, if they can shop globally, again, this has helped a great deal. Thanks.
So carrying on from this theme, James, I think what you're essentially alluding to is ICT can make business easier for small and medium-sized enterprises in any number of different ways. And I want to bounce a few down to you, Robert, actually, because I remember you said something when we met yesterday that sounded interesting. For me, when I think of Samsung, I think of a great flat-screen TV, or maybe getting a new tablet, or the best, the best mobile phone. But a lot of the devices you sell are not targeted towards end consumers like myself, but they fall in the hands of small and medium-sized enterprises, and little innovations can have a big impact on making them run their business more smoothly. Could you give one or two examples of what you were doing in the region in that respect?
Sure, thanks. And when you look at it, we have lots of products, and there's a broad price band in terms of what you can get from Samsung. We have $1,000 devices and tablets and smartphones. At the same time, we have entry smartphones which are in the $100 range. So what we've tried to do is make sure that every consumer is accessible to one of our products. And we have closely worked with today's internet providers, who happens to be operators. And that's the same thing that we're doing right here in Rwanda with KT. Despite supplying them with actually the technology and the masts, we are actually working on a program where the devices are more affordable. So a device that is on the high end, then it's interesting that you can be able to be subsidized or work together with an operator or internet service provider, so that they can be able to provide that same device to the consumer, and especially in the enterprise and small, medium enterprises, such that you can make a group of them and you can create application. That's where Anne comes in. We create customized applications. We will not ship you a Korean product. Yes, it is, yes, Korean, but then the local features are adapted to the local needs and the local market, where we have teams of developers. We actually sponsor K-Lab here, and we fund them, and they have actually a testing lab where we fund them to be able to create customized solutions that can be able to reach out to the market. As early as last night, I was talking to somebody around how we can create a software for the revenue authority to be able to help the retailers keep stock and be able to make sales and keep track of their tax, and they can be able to collect and clearly remit to the revenue authority of what they've been able to import and sell out. So that creates an impact, and it creates actually a much smaller economy. And in that big space, whereas people are in the front line in the shops and the SMEs, which make the largest part of the consortium of the people that we trade with in Africa, they can be able to collectively then group up and buy a couple of devices and make a team, and including the opportunities of Wi-Fi printing on our printers and different solutions. And just to point on that, Rwanda is a good example where they've started off a credit reference bureau like he talked about, and that's a good step, which I would encourage many other Africans who haven't started that. That would actually be an opportunity as an SME by itself to actually create a database that people can be able to poll to and find out who's credit worthy and who's not credit worthy. So that would actually be an opportunity to drive more sales and more credibility, because that's what we lack on this part of the world. In the Western world, yes, there is all the credit referencing, but many organizations want to grow, many operators want to drive technologies, but then the referencing part is what becomes a bit cumbersome.
So I'll continue to peek out here in the audience there must be, if the 90% statistic is correct, there must be many people in the audience who have a view on ICT and SMEs. So once again, just raise your hand and we'll get a mic over to you if you have a question or a comment. In the meantime, Patrick, if I may, I wanted to carry on this conversation about SMEs with you, because a big part of MobiCash's vision is to simply provide broader, more universal access to basic electronic financial services to individuals who historically have been shut out of the formal financial system, using different technologies, whether it's biometrics or mobile phones or what have you. Do you see that these types of mobile money or digital money solutions, electronic financial services, are every bit as valuable to the small and medium-sized enterprise as they are to individual citizens?
Let me first highlight some barriers that meet those small and medium enterprise. It's easier to think that overnight people, they can wake up and set up a company. So there is a lot of barriers that they have to overcome regarding infrastructure, regarding problem for legal framework, regarding access to local or international markets. And at MobiCash, we look carefully how we can foster entrepreneurship and build a driving mechanism to help those small and medium enterprise to bypass the early period where they could fail. And we come up with an idea of creating a business incubation environment that will deal with the first working steps. Now, business incubation, again, it has to be an ecosystem that should be supported by government. All the players, stakeholders in society must be behind. Government must, for example, in e-government, they must give them access to software development instead of calling foreign companies to come and do the job. They can empower the local ICT young people to give them a market to develop the software. We need as well to make sure that those young enterprises have some kind of ISO certification. So they need to be able to access to international market. They should have a proper certification and comply with that. So all those barriers are really some bumping step then they go through. Now, to answer your question about how from the medium then we move into the rest of the financial inclusion of the system, technology is a very huge enabler. And today, only what you need is your brain and a laptop. The software, it's almost universal, anyone can access. So there's no rocket science to do software development. So what we did at MobiCash, we came up, we are now putting in place in Kibuye a center of excellence where we will welcome to all those young ICT people, try to get seed funding for them to help them go further. And so we think that we will bring in as well the funding from financial institutions. Sometimes they need collateral. And once they have bypassed that first, let's say 6 months of a risky downfall, then they can move to the second level of entering into the say a business environment. And so that's where we think a lot of people here, especially the banking system, should be supporting and bring some kind of easy mechanism to access to funding.
Great. So I'd like to, in a moment, continue this discussion by moving a little bit further down the economic food chain, if you will, because I think, Anne, in particular, you've got a number of very interesting examples to share with us about how when we move even below the small and medium-sized enterprises and we think about individuals, digital jobs and whatnot, there's a huge range of opportunities. But for the moment, I'm going to scoot all the way down back to the other side because I have a question for Rajiv and also for Kamal. And that ties back to one of the central themes of the conference, that ultimately what ICT empowers us to do on the continent is to open up entirely new industries and job sectors and to create new jobs in the service sector. And I think, Kamal, coming from your background with a lot of exposure to the BPO business, I wonder if you could just share your thoughts about why embracing ICT or in other sectors really could be the ticket to what we ultimately care about most, and that is establishing.
Get the access to the market which is globally available. That's another aspect of how ICT can help a lot in elevating this economic level of the value chain, which is probably one of the needs here. And I think other than that, the whole industry, when it gets built up around it, the people who build, there are periphery industry which will come in play. So if, let's say, you have a BPO center, you have hundreds of people coming in there, which industry do you think gets impacted beyond that? One of that is transport. The other one is food. The third one could be the service providing to maintain the places. So you see the chain impact of going about some services which creates another service around.
So that's an interesting thought, this idea that investing in ICT by itself will create a ripple effect throughout the rest of the economy and adjacent businesses.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, Rajiv, but we have a comment or a question from the floor. Do you have a microphone there yet?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay, you're right at the table. Okay, please. Go
My
ahead.
name is Alex from Three Stones Consulting. I haven't heard any mention yet of microfinance institutions and crowdsource investing. We're talking a lot about expanding markets, but not necessarily expanding the opportunities for revenue, investment revenue. I'd like to hear what people think about that.
Sure. I know that, are we live here on this one? I know that there's at least a couple of examples in Rwanda of microfinance institutions embracing the use of ICT. The example that comes to mind is Urwego Opportunity Bank, which has based a large part of its core business, which is microloan disbursement and repayment, on a process reengineering that's moving it from a cash-intensive process to a mobile phone-based solution. But this question is probably best answered by some of our bankers in the room. So James, I wonder if you could share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because technology should come to serve not only the wealthy people, but it should be able to serve people at the lower end of the pyramid. So Gordon has given you one example here in Rwanda, where Urwego Opportunity also has partnered with Visa. Also, they are having the same Visa telephone banking. But what we have done at the Bank of Kigali is to have a micro-lending wing of the bank so that we can be able to serve the lower end of the pyramid. And because of technology, we've been able to come up with software that would be able to give us information about people and their payment habits, but also be able to store information that would allow us to make decisions about this segment, because in most cases you serve these people with no collateral at all, and therefore you want to see their payment habits. How do they pay back? What kind of products are they putting up to the community? So you have to come up with a clear software that will be able to capture all this information. And this is what we have done at the Bank of Kigali by coming up with a micro-lending wing of Bank of Kigali. But also it is important that as you go around these folks, that you are able also to give them information, how they can use technology, how they can use their mobile phones to be able to pay, to make payments, to be able to receive payments. So this is what we have done using mobile phones, so that they don't have to go carrying cash. They can use their phones to do transactions. This is how we came up with our own BKRchu, what we call BKRchu. This is how we have used Visa to make sure that people are able to do transactions using their phones, and therefore, because of the information also they have, they can be able to access credit because of the, again, technology that has allowed us to store information about the behavior of this kind of population. Thank you.
So I think your question also touched a little bit on, you talked about crowdsourcing as well, and maybe you'd like to just elaborate on that. I have a hunch that maybe Anne will have some thoughts on this or some experience, but maybe if you want to touch on that part of your question again to make sure we capture it.
Yes, I'll admit I'm most eager to hear from Anne about social business and social enterprise. This conference has talked so much about the private-public partnership, and yet very little about the private-civil partnership and the impact that leverage can have. Organizations like Kiva, who are nonprofit microfinance institutions, while they have their own issues, like Grameen Bank also has its own issues. These platforms, I'd like to hear more about that and how social return on investment can be brought to be just as important as traditional return on investment in terms of banking.
Very good questions. I was sharing with the gentleman. Please note that I'm the only woman in the group, but just saying that one of the big challenges that I have seen as a social entrepreneur in this environment is that there is seed funding for many small startups, small amounts, $10,000 at the most, $5,000, small amounts that are available particularly from government institutions. And what that tends to do is to get them off the starting block. But what it doesn't do is enable social enterprises or enterprises that are operating at that very small level to scale. And I think one of the biggest opportunities we're missing is the scalability of the multitude of small and young and innovative enterprises that are emerging. I mean, whether it's through the K-Labs and iHubs and M-Labs and all of these, over and above them, just individually, there are amazing projects that are happening across this continent that you will never hear about, you will never see, unless there is a completely different risk mindset that banks take on, And I know that as we were talking about sort of the credit profiling within the banks, there needs to be a new way of thinking about risk. And that cannot be about the usual credit and collateral that you've always thought about. It has to be risk that is built on innovation and possibility and opportunity. Because without that, we will never break this. We have such amazing teams that we work with of young people whose ideas are unbelievable. I mean, I'm working in South Africa in a lab where we've got some young people who are actually transforming in their innovation the way that transport can happen in the country in terms of payment systems. And so they've got a little bit of money from the government, but that's like, as I was saying, $10,000. And they're saying, actually, what we're looking for is $150,000 to $200,000 initially, but eventually we're going to need $500,000 and $1 million and move up to that sort of level where we know we can actually transform the way the transport industry functions. But at this point, there is, in my experience, I have not found many or any, actually, provision of investments at that level. I know that there are at least two new crowdsourcing funds that have come up. One is based in South Africa, that they're sort of following the Kiva model, but not non-profit. It's for profit. They're still struggling to onboard entrepreneurs into the system because entrepreneurs are not familiar with how crowdsourcing works here. And also, a lot of the funding is not coming from within the African economy. In any case, a lot of the crowdfunding is still coming from the global markets or from outside for people who are familiar with this. So a lot of what they have to do is do a lot of educating. So I'm not sure how fast we're going to be able to move with the crowdfunding model, at least internally in terms of being able to mobilize the money. But what I do know is quite interesting that's beginning to happen is there are models of some of the sort of San Francisco-based venture funds who are trying to partner with some of the local sort of entrepreneurship funding organizations to figure out new models for scale. But it is still very small, it is still very exclusive. And, I think to myself, if I, former UNDP for many years, mid-career woman, if I have struggled so much to be able to find that kind of investment, what is it like for all the young people who are just thinking and dreaming about big projects? So my view is that we need to do a completely different reconfiguration of how you match big and small, So I've been nudging my friend Robert here on my left to say, now Samsung, I want to do an app for you, but I don't want to do a little app for you. I want to do with you a massive continental, massive online learning program for young Africans, big time, all right? Now, I'm not Harvard and I'm not MIT, and so I'm not Coursera or any of those big programs, but I am an African woman with a massive vision for which I believe we can transform the way young people learn and how skills are built in this continent. I need the kind of partners who dare to walk with us at the scale at which we can transform this learning in this continent. But if you look at my credit rating in the normal banking sense, and I have been to many banks, the tendency is to look at me and say, it's been very traditional in its approach. And I've said to them, look at Grameen Bank. If Grameen Bank had not taken the risks that it took on those women, it would not exist today. So we need massive risks, and I don't know who's going to take it and how we're going to back it up, and whether or not, and I think Rwanda for me looks like the perfect place to do this because of the kind of innovation that is taking place here. And I mean, I've heard from the language you're speaking from Bank of Kigali that you might just be the bank, perhaps partnering with RDB and others, who can create an entrepreneurial investment fund and vehicle that will begin to look at different ways to structure credit and structure investments and move to scale. And then look at partners like Samsung who dare to step into spaces that have not been walked before and dare to pick one of your young K-Lab people and say, we're going to turn them into the next massive African BPO or whatever it might be. And I think there's huge opportunities for that. So I thank you for your question, and I think that there's opportunity to do great things.
Thank you for your answer.
Ms. James.
And I think that is very important because we need, as Africans, to create brands, to add value to whatever we are doing, to make sure that Africa is put on the map. And this, we are getting information from the social network, which has changed the way we used to manage businesses. Now, we do get feedback. If you go to Facebook, if you go to BK and see Facebook, people are following us on Facebook, on Twitter. And young men and women are asking us information that they need to be able to access financial services. They are giving us feedback on how we can improve services. They are, so we are paying attention to whatever is going on, is going around globally or in Rwanda because of the social media. It has tremendously changed the way we used to govern and manage businesses. And thank you for that interruption. That question.
I'm sure this is a theme we'll come back to. Over the last couple of days, there's been so much talk about public-private partnerships. And I think, as you said very well, Anne, maybe a bigger question, or an equally big question, is the partnership between big and small within private enterprise. And in many respects, it's perhaps a perfect storm in Rwanda to get that enabling environment, because we have educational institutions like Carnegie Mellon, for instance. We have KIST. We have the basic plumbing coming into place with LTE, mobile broadband. And if the private sector itself can be investing in the innovations that come from this newly empowered workforce, surely Rwanda and many other countries will stand to gain. Rajiv, I was actually going to come to you anyway, because I thought you might have some things to share about India and other experience, Mexico, for instance, but please. Yeah.
Sure. Gordon, before getting into that, if I can share some thoughts on the discussion going on. For any country to generate jobs and enterprises to strive, we need to create ecosystems. Now, if you look at the Silicon Valley, you have an ecosystem consisting of investors who bring in capital. You have universities who bring in talent, and then you have the infrastructure support. So when we look at entering into a country or investing in a country, so these are the parameters we look at. Now, for example, you look at Rwanda. You have the Carnegie Mellon University, which can train and produce very high qualified technical engineers or technical people. Then you have the support from the government. And government is providing infrastructure, government is providing all kind of help and support to companies to come and create jobs. And then you need to have the investors and the capital, which in our case we bring in. We are bringing on our own, because we are supported by large capital groups. So this is kind of an ecosystem to create jobs and enterprises to flourish anywhere in the world. And it doesn't change. You look at Silicon Valley, you look at Boston. They have the best thing they have is they have that ecosystem. So for Africa or for Rwanda in particular, if you want to have that kind of striving enterprises, you need to have that ecosystem. Now, I want to share our example, what we did in other countries, and which is very relevant to Rwanda and also Africa in particular. Now, going back to the ICT industry, the services sector, a job in IT industry or ICT industry, it creates 5 ancillary jobs associated. So this is connecting to Kamal's thought. So an IT job, to have the IT job done, you need transportation support. You need people to feed the engineers. You need housing. You need other support. So a job created in the IT sector, it creates 5 ancillary jobs in the economy. So this is the kind of impact IT jobs can create for overall job creation in the economy itself. And I'm talking from our own experience. I want to give 2 examples. One is India and one is Mexico. In India, we started our operations 12 years back in a place where hardly there was any IT work or any good businesses. Today, in the same place, in the Technopark, we employ 6,000 people, and the Technopark itself employs 30,000 people by 150 companies. So this is the kind of job creation which happened. And the Technopark was built by the government, and they gave all the support. And alluding to the ecosystem I mentioned, there were good qualified engineering graduates coming out from good universities, but they did not have the opportunities. Now, the Technopark itself it is employing 30,000 people in ICT, which means 150,000 people are getting jobs in the other areas. So the Technopark has become the economic capital for the whole city. So that's a direction in which cities and countries have to look at. Now, we did the same thing last year in Mexico. We partnered with the ex-president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, and we started our operations in a place called Leon, which is away from all the big cities. And today we have 500 people working from Lyon. And to share some developments out there, so when I went there last year, there was hardly anything, except that President Fox and his family's house was there, and they come from there, and they gave us the building and the infrastructure facilities. We set up the operations. Today it is a full-fledged IT support center. And if you go there today, there are hundreds of small hotels, restaurants, and people are transporting from airport. And today the government is talking about setting up high-speed trains between the large cities to Lyon, because they see that, okay, this is really changing the life of people and human capital. And if qualified engineers from Mexico City or other city like Guadalajara, they want to come and work in Lyon, they need to have trains. And for our clients to go to Lyon, you need to have direct flights. So they are talking about having more flights between Los Angeles and Lyon. So this is how investing and bringing in IT jobs can change the whole life and the whole economy, or the whole lifestyle of people, and foster enterprises and growth. And why this is, if I can take a minute, why this is happening today, why did it not happen, say, 20 years back? So we live in a globalized economy. Okay. And today with the developments in ICT, like infrastructure, the broadband, and other video conferencing facilities, a work can be done from anywhere. You don't have to sit in California to do the work for a client who is in California. So today what is happening in the globalized world is the jobs are moving to where skills are available. In the first part of globalization, people would move to where jobs are. Today, with the help of, because it is the technology is supporting all this, the facilitating all this jobs and the work to be done, the jobs will move to where talent is. And if you look at Africa as a continent, Africa has 1 billion people, a $2 trillion economy. And this continent is the fastest growing continent in terms of the GDP growth anywhere in the world. Now there's a lot of growth happening in Africa. And with the young population, the average age of African population is 18 years, where the world it is 40 years. So you have a young population, and if you can develop skilled people, a lot of jobs will move here. And we are trying to do with Rwanda exactly the same thing. We want some of the work our corporation we do for Fortune 500 corporations in the US. If it can be done from Rwanda at a cheaper rate with qualified people, we will move it here. So this is the direction in which world is moving, and this is the opportunity for Africa, and Rwanda in particular, because Rwanda is leading the pack. They are showing the government support, the institutions, the ecosystem is created.
Thanks for that, Rajiv. I'd like to bounce this conversation back down to you, Anne, because I think this notion that in a connected world, the jobs will come to where the people and the skills are, not the other way around, is important. So far in the discussion, I think we're sort of imagining how larger operations, BPOs, with their ecosystems that surround them could come up. We've talked a little bit about SMEs, but Anne, I think you have some experience thinking even down to the next level, and this idea of digital jobs where individuals with the right skill sets and the right connectivity can all of a sudden be plugged into this global economy. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think this is a very interesting area for us to look at and pay attention to in the African continent. I think digital jobs were actually driven by working mothers. So lots of mothers in Europe and in the US who had babies and wanted to stay home but still wanted to be productive and earn some money, started really pushing the boundaries of being able to work from home and still earn and still be productive. And so there's a big move right now in different countries. The big projects are happening in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Kenya, in Senegal as well. And essentially the Digital Jobs Project, that is it's a Rockefeller-funded project. Well, the research is being done a lot by Rockefeller. But what is interesting about this is that, you know, there's several online job platforms where you can actually go as a young person who has a skill, whether it's in software development, or it's in design work, or it's in research, or it's in editorial or writing, the kinds of jobs where you don't need to physically be in a particular place to deliver. These are being, they're being built really rapidly, and we're finding lots of young, skilled Africans who are sitting where, and are unable to find productive work, are actually taking advantage of this. So this is a growing market, and it's a growing opportunity of digital jobs for Africans, and we think it's something that will grow quite rapidly. But another interesting one that is actually even probably larger is jobs at the really lower level of low skill work. So there's a level of skilled work, which are these digital jobs. But where you have, for instance, I'm building a house and I need a painter, or I need a bricklayer, right? The bricklayers will sign up that they provide bricklaying services on a simple SMS platform. They'll send an SMS or through USSD, they sign themselves up, and there's a reference system and there's point system, and on the basis of that, I, as a person who's building a home, can actually go to this site and I can find painters who have references and be able to find jobs that way. So these are small jobs. I mean, in South Africa, the language is piece jobs. So I can find short-term contract workers who can do short-term jobs using this. And there's a few platforms that are happening around the continent, and they are growing really, really fast. I think there's one that already has registered about 100,000 low-skilled workers who have signed up to that. And slowly it's picking up because businesses are beginning to understand that it exists, and individuals and so on. But I think it's a revolution that we're looking to grow more and more and more. One of the things that we do as a business is word-of-mouth marketing. And what we're doing is finding that, you know, just online marketing of a digital online platform is not easy to reach all, especially our youth users. And so what we've done is basically trained a team of young people, given them digital literacy, given them mobile phones, give them the content that we're distributing, and we send them out, and they become like sales and marketing agents. And what's interesting is that as they go out, they themselves are starting to create jobs. So they come back to us and they say, oh, we were there locally and we found that Nokia or a local bank are interested in marketing on the ground as well. Is it okay if we take that job? And you know, for us, our point is perfect, because, you know, you just need to deliver our deliverable. We need 100 users a day as your deliverable. If you have 5 more hours of that day to do other people's work, great. And so there is another opportunity for creating jobs within this whole digital ecosystem. And so there are opportunities, I think, for young people to really grow and push boundaries in terms of jobs. So I think it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to be an African, to be an entrepreneur in Africa, to be building and growing economic growth. It's very exciting. But we need to look down here, not look up here all the time. Yeah, there are fewer up there. Down here, we are millions and billions. So.
And I'm going to look out here now. We had one question from the floor. There must be other questions on any of the themes we've talked about so far. Could we get a microphone to the gentleman in the back with his hand up, please? When you get your microphone, if you could just introduce yourself and indicate who your question is directed to, your comment.
Thank you. My name is Jameson Olufuye. I'm the chair for the Africa ICT Alliance, a private sector-led ICT organization for businesses in Africa. Well, I really like the feedback from Anne, because I'm an entrepreneur. I run a company. I started small with zero funding and using my know-how in programming. And today, I think it's a good story. I'm based in Nigeria, Abuja, Nigeria. Well, looking back, I appreciate what you said, Anne, about some knowledge and your investment in e-learning. But my point now, from benefit of hindsight, is that one needs to look at SME businesses from project management perspective. From what I know now, If I'd known that before, I think it would be much, much better. So I appreciate what you said and your investment in e-learning, in building capacity of young people. I've seen many businesses that have collapsed. Many SMEs have collapsed, and at the same time, many are doing well. Now, the question I want to ask again is with regard to global platform, global payment platform. You know, access to that is quite challenging. And so if it can be made easier, especially with Visa and MasterCard, to go a long way in boosting SMEs in Africa. There are a lot of opportunities, quite well, as you said, panel said, but we need to get the right know-how, pass it across to the young people early enough so that they can use it to build the businesses. Thank you.
I think that's an excellent question. I probably come with a little bit of bias as the Visa guy, but the underlying premise is so important, which is that surely electronic money movement is like the basic plumbing of any modern economy. When we talk about ICT, if we're able to make digital or electronify all of these different services and all of these different things that we can offer an economy, but there's no way to exchange value other than to part with physical notes and coins, we've really left part of our business entirely in the dark ages and only moved the rest of it forward. But rather than me editorialize up here, we have plenty of experts in this field of electronic payments. James from Bank of Kigali and Patrick from MobiCash. Maybe we could ask you for your thoughts on this question of payment platforms and how we can ensure that digital currency exchange comes along for the ride as we introduced technology to the other aspects of our life.
I think one of the most important aspect to take into account is that the mobile payment platform, there should be an open to allow young developers, young small enterprise to plug in and bring ideas on how to quickly grow application around the account management system. So we see the payment platform mainly as an account management system, but around young people, they can plug in ideas like, I saw yesterday a young boy who approached me, and he has an application that can link to Facebook. That's quite innovative. Another one is working on how you can link with Twitter, so tweet money. So if the platform can provide what we call API, application programming interface, to publicly available, I think it's a great way of empowering small and medium enterprise to be part of the global revolution in mobile payment.
Thank you. Again, what we have done here in Rwanda is to have fiber optic network throughout the country. And so what this does is to make sure that anyone in any remote corner of Rwanda can be connected to the internet. And in the Ministry of Trade, there is a unit that looks after startups. And these startups are given technical support for startups to make sure they are advised along the way from when they start a business. They do not leave them alone, and they do facilitate these people to approach banks. And as I said earlier, there is also government guarantee that has been put in place to make sure that these startups are able to access finance. Again, in our case, in Rwanda, we have young men and women who are able to develop accounting softwares, and we have practically, as Bank of Kigali, we have worked with a local company that has been able to develop a number of enabling softwares for us at affordable price. So what we have done again is to make sure that this local entrepreneur can be able to develop capacities that can be extended to the small businesses. So from our perspective, if we encourage local, us as a big company, if we encourage local developers to develop their products cheaply, then they can, of course, it is big investment for us, but what happens is they are able to extend those same services at a lower cost to the smaller businesses and to the startups to make sure that their businesses do not collapse. So you find that many startups, of course, if they are not given technical support, if they are not followed up, if you do not teach them on how to keep books of accounts, to provide information, they certainly meet challenges. So this is where partnership comes in between big companies under their social responsibilities to make sure that they are also giving support, technical know-how to these startups. Thank you.
Thank you. So that he closes the deal in India tomorrow. Let's give a round of applause to thank Sanjeev as he rushes to the airport. Thank you very much for your contribution. Again, any other questions? Please feel free to just raise your hand, and we'll make sure we get a microphone over to you. If we could get a microphone to the lady over there on the side. Over this side.
Thank you.
Oh, you have a microphone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Edith Munyana, the Director of ICT in the Ministry of Health. And I would like to, mine is just a comment. I would like to encourage, I think we have the right panel right there, the banking sector, the telecom companies like Samsung, and the MobiCash guy. I would like to see you coming in the health sector and help us and advise us. For example, there is this project we are working on for the community health-based insurance. And our wish is to see all the people insured in the community health-based insurance in the Ministry of Health being able to subscribe using their mobile phones and pay using mobile money. And I would like to see the banking sector being near the health sector to advise us on how to see this being practical and put in action. And that would be my question. Thank you.
Okay. We have a quite interesting experience that we are rolling out in Uganda. We have built a concept that we call My Life. It's mainly a macro insurance product that target these boda and those taxi motors and the commuters. It's $1 insurance per month, and the insurance covered $1,000 in case of accident, hospital, death, or incapacity. Now, we have seen people adopting that massively, but one of the most important things is we are capable of identifying people by using biometrics. So they register, we take their fingerprint, so that when they claim, we know that they are right people who are claiming and not the cousin or any other person. And in 3 months, we have enrolled more subscribers than the entire insurance industry in Uganda over 10 years. That shows that there is really a need at the bottom of the pyramid, and you'd be amazed how those people, they are using it in a very enthusiastic way, being able to access to those macro insurance, and we are planning now to even to move further and bring in the micro health. That product is underwritten by Liberty Life in South Africa, which is the second biggest insurance almost on the continent. And the product is doing well, and we are planning to expand it and roll out very soon here in Rwanda. So we have the right solution using biometrics to really identify individuals when needed and and curb the fraudulent activity that everyone knows in the insurance industry, where people they make claim and they are not the real beneficiary.
James, please go ahead if you have something to add.
I just wanted to let her know that next to her is Kizito, this guy. He's from Bank of Kigali. He heads our agency banking. And through BKRQ and EMU Visa, we have the solution for what you need. So I'm sure he's going to follow up. You don't have to call him. He has seen you. And he will make sure he gives you the solution. Within less than a month, you should be on. Thank you.
Well, and I think it speaks volumes that the comment comes from the Ministry of Health within the government of Rwanda, because the practical reality is that when the policy sector, when the government sector sets a clear national priority, things can happen very quickly. And to just elaborate on this example of electronic financial services, fact is, a year and a half ago, Rwanda had enough ATMs connected to any international network. You could count them on one hand. Bank of Kigali, and there was one other bank, EcoBank, that had ATMs. Now, just about every single ATM in the country is connected. And that happened almost overnight, but only because there was a very clear government vision to participate in the electronification of the economy. Same thing happened with e-commerce. The number of merchant point-of-sale terminals, I suspect maybe many of you who have visited have noticed that proliferation. And whether it's the Ministry of Health or pension disbursements, as James mentioned earlier, or even the use of electronic financial services for the disbursement of fertilizer within the Ministry of Agriculture to farmers, all of this is becoming electronified because there's a very clear government vision that this is a part of being a smart nation driven by ICT. We have a gentleman in the front here. You have a microphone, so you can go first. And if we could get a microphone to the lady in the back there, please, or the gentleman in the back. If you could go ahead, please, the gentleman in the front.
Thank you. My name is Hervé Rutajengwa. I'm CEO and founder of Medimasoft Limited. It's a software development company. I just want to ask the financial institution representative there, even if we create the softwares or the application, we get the intellectual property certificate. I want to ask them if they can consider intellectual property certificate as like a guarantee for accessing to access to the financial for supporting our startup company. Because, for example, I have a software of Forex Bureau management, and we want some working capital to develop my company. So, but to get finance in the bank is not easy for me because of guarantee or other things like that. So, and here in Rwanda, I know that the guarantee they consider like a land, house, but not the intellectual property. So I want to ask what's the plan you have for us to consider our intellectual property like a guarantee? Thank you very much.
Okay, so the question is about whether certified intellectual property could in some ways serve as a method of reassurance when seeking credit with a financial institution. Okay, good question. James, do you have thoughts on that?
That is a novel concept, indeed. So what we are going to do, we are going to see if there is a market for intellectual property. And if there is that market, so that if you default, we can be able to sell, it's something we are going to explore. But do not be discouraged. Like I said, in Rwanda, we have guarantee funds. And therefore, come to us and we discuss. Which bank are you working with now? Baker. So come to us. I should not have asked. I should have known. Come to us and we are going to see if the market is not ready for intellectual property, we will do that survey to see if that is possible, and if it is doable, there is no reason why we cannot be bringing different alternatives to businesses. But again, if the market is not ready to sell intellectual property, what we are going to do again is to see what other guarantee funds we can advise you, or we can approach those guarantee funds to see if it can be possible. So just visit us and we will discuss. Thank you.
Okay, we had a question in the back, and then there's a lady in the front. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Steve Mutabazi. I work for the Rwanda Development Board as a strategist for development focusing on the ICT sector. Now, one of the things that I do, of course, is facilitate the investment from outside into this country, but always with an objective to make sure that when we have investment, that investment generates jobs in this country. But we always find that we have a gap between the kind of skills we've got and the skills required in the longer term for jobs in that particular sector. So forgive me if I've got your name wrong, Mr. Kamal?
Kamal, yes.
You talked about your establishment of a BPO center or an ICT center business. It sounded like a city in South America. Now, what can you share with us? What did you have to do to make sure that you had the right people with the right skills that are Mexicans working in that operation? It would really help us to know, because we want to fast-track that process. It's okay getting investment here, but we've got to fast-track the process of getting skills into it.
Okay. Let's look at what you said. My understanding what you're asking is, how did we go about creating the skill and the manpower and people to do that work of a BPO? And as I said, there are three different aspects in the BPO. One is the audio BPO, where you have a call. The other one is processing the back-end office work, where there's a process defined by the organization. And the third one is the knowledge, using the knowledge to analyze something and getting a higher value, and that is the highest chain value. Now let's look at what was done back in our organizations. If you look at most of the Indian organizations, one of the things to capture the talent was that they finally had to go back to the colleges and start from there. There was a phase where we used skill enhancement of people because that was the fastest mode to get on to. But after that, the model of bringing people into the organization or into the business of BPO started rolling back towards the colleges and universities. And there was a time when organizations were doing bridging courses. When somebody comes from college to the organization, there was a bridging course which may spread over 3 months to 6 months. But now that part of the story also has been pushed to the university, which means that bridging incorporated into the course of the student. The other part what was done was that there was a lot of support provided in different form from either the government institutions or institutions which are, but from skill enhancement and for BPO, today in India we started from metro cities, cities which had stability of connectivity. Cities have connectivity of people to come in and go. Slowly it moved to tier 2 cities, where those cities got a little more better off. After 20 or 25 years today, you find in India tier 3 cities providing BPO services, which means we have gone down till the level of much beyond a district level cities to provide. And that has happened because I think over a period of time, skill enhancement and education has percolated down, and people today operate from where they live. And ICT connectivity was the key part. Every city is connected with a good, stable infrastructure, which is very key to international business. If you really want to do export, you want to do any export business, infrastructure stability of providing 24-hour service with least of a risk and disruption would be the key. It does not matter whether you are doing for the next country or doing far away. That would be the key part of the story.
Thank you very much, Kamal. We have time for a couple of more questions. One question here in the front.
Thank you very much. Maybe it's more a comment than a question. I think both Anne and a gentleman here in the room, they raised a very important question, which in part was probably was answered actually by Kamal right now in his response. And that's the question of the funding system that we have in place for IT projects, innovations, and finding system we could put in place in such a way that to allow them to grow, basically, move from that just a startup into becoming really an important enterprise. And it seems to me that this question of a different approach to risk assessment need to be considered. It's not necessarily a question we could answer here today, but we need, in my view, to devote a little bit more attention to this. We cannot approach the risk assessment of IT projects. We cannot assess them in the same traditional way we will assess few other projects. If we're speaking of intangible, or if we're speaking of ideas here, what is the approach that we need to take? That is one thing, and I have to say that I'm still to get an answer here, which, and I listen to everyone, but I'm still to get an answer which I find satisfactory. I'm not myself from the banking area, from the banking service. Maybe the solution doesn't lie with commercial banks. We need to consider a few other financing arrangements here. And I would like to listen to those. If there are some of those who are present in the room here, please feel free to share your experience or your experiences or what kind of services you think could respond to those questions and to those cases which were raised here. So I'm still, it is just a comment to say that, well, I'm listening, but I'm still to hear a convincing response to the needs which were convincingly and clearly expressed here.
We heard about crowdfunding earlier on today. I'm not sure if anyone has a comment to build on that. It's clearly an unresolved theme of how we fund the innovation that will come after the plumbing is in place. Were there any direct responses to that important comment? Yes, we do have one thought over here, please, and then we'll move on to our final two questions.
Thank you. My name is Gasana. I just have a comment on what has been just said or raised. In this, we're here, first of all, because of innovation and creativity. And we are seeing an evolution of how to offer services in a short time period, bridging remote areas, rural areas to mega cities worldwide. So we're here, actually, I'm trying to respond to the gentleman here about intellectual property. So intellectual property is very important because it's innovation. It's create market. It's create softwares. We're here because of talented people shared, and we're here because of that in this ICT platform. So intellectual property has to be instrumentalized as a guarantee because it's create market, it's create software, it's bring us here like we're here today. So what we need for that, we need also long-term financing, long-term available money now to make all this platform function in integrated way, in integrated economy, in which brings back as a platform where innovative people, innovative companies, pioneers in their own matters, bring their skills and resources together to bring solution. And we have a solution here. So long-term financing available now, but for long-term issues is a key solution to ease all these technologies. Also, just a last word, we're talking also about development, long-term development. But let me get back on traditional industry, or this ICT, it's innovation, it's even a revolution, it's a solution. But at the limit, it won't replace completely the old industry. Somehow we need those modernized industries. So that's my last comment. But on last comment, if you can comment on that also, it can bring together the old industry and the solution for this platform of innovation, and then things will keep integrated and modernized very quickly. Thank you.
If we have, okay, Patrick and then James, and then we'll, I can see some conference organizers looking at me at the back of the room, so we'll take these final comments, and then I'll encourage our panelists to stick around for a little bit longer if they can, so you can hopefully catch them during the coffee break. But please, Patrick.
Just to bring an idea how we can tackle the issue of empowering young enterprise, I think it's very important that we put in place a conducive environment that can tackle all the barriers that we know prevent them to grow or help them grow and pass the early stage of their growth. And earlier on I was talking about putting in place a business incubation process where all the stakeholders, being government, being private enterprise, they must contribute to the ecosystem by providing from the government side a complete legal framework where the property, intellectual property, the copyrights, and all those trademarks that should be supported. Then government should, even private sector, they should give business to those young entrepreneurs. Instead of calling in those international big software company, I'm sure that here within the country we have skills enough to build any kind of software. And we have seen that at Mobicash, where all the software using biometrics, NFC technology, NSDT, near sound data transfer, are developed by local young boys that we have been empowering through a kind of incubation process. So I think that can probably give an answer, immediate answer to the need of creating conducive ICT environment sector.
Anne, yes, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, you know, as we're thinking through how to respond to this sort of funding gap, there is a big impact investment community that is beginning to grow. It is largely outside looking in. And I think that there are people beginning to participate in that conversation, but the people who are participating in the conversation, in my mind, are more, either development agencies or, organizations that are sort of supporting entrepreneurs. I don't think that we're breaking it yet. I think we still need to be able to bring in a combination of banking types. And I know that there's innovation funds that many of our governments have. They do lock out a lot of businesses because they're looking for innovations that are largely sort of bioscience and biotechnical, and they're sort of, software development doesn't work in that space. So there still needs to be a very new type of structure that is created. And my sense is that it would be quite easy to do this if we brought the impact investment community, the innovation fund community, and innovative banks, along with entrepreneurial support ecosystem types, into one room, and then have this conversation about, what does that look like? I think it is possible to build.
Robert, please, or Kamal, go ahead, please.
No, see, what are we saying here? One is we need to go away from looking bank as the only way to look at. So the problem will not get solved from the bank side because philosophically the concept of how they work. That's the first aspect. The number two is, as she said, we need to bring a body or a group of people who are investors, who will fund that. What is your issue? The issue is you have a risk and you are reaching a bank is saying this risk evaluation is not my job, so I don't do that part work. So you need somebody who understands your risk and willing to accept it to fund. That part can only come from another objective body. Now body is not, and another one is, let's not look at government as only source of funding to be done. There is a private setup which should get into. What we have seen is investor groups of people who believe in investing and taking risk, participating in this. Another one is we are trying to confuse ourselves with innovation investment or fund for that and running my business, which I believe is very good. Where I'm doing software. These are two different aspects. Innovation investment is looked at from a very different perspective, and for that banks are not there for that for you. But to run your business, and which has a risk, which produces something on which collateral is not there, you need investment group of people, which could be from outside the world or from your own places. I think that's where I see somewhere that mix will come up, definitely.
Okay, we have time for one or two final comments from the panel.
Say on that is really, you just touching, Kamal, the point. My point is not to bring once again government into this industry. I do believe that there is out there a market for funding.
Put money in good ideas and partnerships that are willing to put money in good ideas. And once then these are good ideas, we have the head of capital market here. Then you can even take this to get long-term investment. So I think the head of capital market should tell us more on how he should be able to get long-term funding for these new ideas. Thank you very much.
And Robert, did you have a question?
Sure.
No, comment, sorry?
Yeah, sure. It's just a comment. And a lot of it we've been talking about financing and how to go about. And in the beginning I said, Samsung is a big organization, but we've made ourselves small and we are willing to listen to the people out in the field. As I've said, we don't only just sell solutions that are driven from the Western world. I'm sitting with Anne and we're looking at how we can be able to collaborate and drive that. As well as the moderator, I was challenging him that, look, we have PDQs that you can plug into your phone or tablet and you can swipe your Visa card. So we're localizing most of the solutions, but then the challenge is to actually, the people who are developing them, you have to collaborate with the ends of your society so that you can come out front. You can sit at the back and keep talking that I have this solution, but you've never moved out of your room. Nobody knows about it. So take the initiative and drive it. Be aggressive, and we will listen, and we will look and seek a solution to make sure that we bring you opportunities and face you to your consumers and the end users, because we're hungry for business. We want to drive technology. We want to drive passion. So if you sit with your information, we will never be able to bridge the two of us.
Thank you very much, Robert. On that note, clearly this conversation isn't over. We'll hope to see it on the agenda, not only in 2015 Transform Africa, but on the Twitter feed from all of you active participants. Thank you very much, the audience, for being such an active part of this discussion. And thanks especially to our panelists. If you could please give them a warm round of applause. I'll see if I can trap them here during the coffee time for those of you who patiently put your hand up and didn't get a chance to ask your question. Thanks so much.
And a big hand for our moderator, Mr. Cooper. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well done. Thank you to our panel as well. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to rush you because timing is of the essence. We've got two groups playing at the same time, and we somehow have to make sure we're back here and done by 1 o'clock. So go to tea. Throw it down your throat. You don't have time to sip today. Chuck it down. Let's try and all be back and ready to roll at 11 o'clock for the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Sorry
much.
to mess with your schedule.
No, don't worry.
Thank you, Patrick. Hey, nice to meet you. Yeah.